Hello, freedom-loving capitalists. Today we're going to talk about an update to the forecast. Not too far off, but just shifting a little bit. We're going to for Bitcoin and when we're going to move up. Good news in that regard. We're also going to talk about the head fake news about the drop and the real news about the drop. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Welcome back. First, the update. Things are playing out fairly closely to what I've been talking about. I did not go for this head fake. Well, actually, I'm on a weekly basis. Let's do it on a daily basis. I did not go for the head fake that was up around 9,400. I didn't. If you recall in the videos, I didn't think that that was going to be a lasting move. And now that we've moved down to below 8,000, 7,500. We're falling into, and this is where things are setting up. We're falling into the low that I talked about, where it could potentially go lower. It still has downside momentum, and we're not in an oversold area. Now, the oversold area would occur below 7,000 in that range. We would be probably moderately oversold, not extremely oversold on a daily basis, so we could see a bit of a rebound, and on a weekly basis, we are not fully oversold yet. Sellers are in control, but it's sort of a moderate, like they're not increasing their control. There's a bit of a battle going on, but we could definitely get down to the 6,500 or lower range. That would set up a nice springback, a very strong springback. So, as I've been saying, April is a transition month. I expect our low to occur in April, meaning we will bounce off of the low in April. That's what I'm seeing. The only option out of that, and it doesn't look like that's the case at all, so it's a low probability option, is we would just trend here. Trend within, let's call it 7,000 at the low, probably 10,950 something at a high point. Trend here, all of these would catch up. This would actually drop a little bit lower. This would already have been oversold, and this would begin to trend towards buyers in control at some point within that span, and then we would get our launch. Right now, what the high probability trade is we will continue down. That's what all of these are showing. Continue down, possibly to 6,000 or below. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that, but possibly 6,000 or below, setting up an aggressive spring back. Now, whether that full spring back will occur in April all the way up to where I've been talking about the 14,000 range, because by the way, these lines by the time this runs its course are going to be more than likely down in this region. Because of the averages are pulling them down aggressively right now, as you can see from here. So they'll more than likely be down in the 4,000 region, which is setting up what I'm talking about. My suspicion is we may not quite get that full bounce in April. That's one thing I want to talk about. We will probably get the low in April. I don't know that we're going to get the full bounce up in April, but it doesn't really matter because as long as you're buying in at a relative low point and you're riding an uptrend, you're in profit. Whether the profit occurs in a couple of days, which is great, or occurs in a couple of weeks, which is more typical, you're still making money while other markets may be on a downtrend. Speaking of other markets, let's go back, let's check out what's going on in the broader market because it's impacting the cryptocurrency world. I'm going to just do this very briefly. What we're seeing is the major indices, for those of you who trade all of them, are are showing extreme volatility, very high. I mean, the Dow has dumped 700 and jumped 500 just in days of each other. NASDAQ, same boat, but they're all below their recent highs. And what that's indicating is the trade is risk off right now. Right now, the trade is showing resilience to the risk off trade, but by and large, risk off trade. Another indicator of the risk off trade sort of becoming less popular is look what's happened to the U.S. Treasury 10-year yields. Dropping like a rock. That means people are running to the perceived safety of Treasury bonds. Now, what does all this have to do with crypto, you might ask? I'll tell you what. Cryptos, as I said many moons ago, we're going back December, January, I said cryptos were the early warning indicator for risk because it's now perceived, and perhaps the truth, as the riskiest most speculative market. And what I think is quite possible is that as the stock market eventually rolls over more, which it looks like it's likely to do, I don't see us significantly surpassing new highs if we pass them at all. I think we're down for the year already, but if we pass them at all, I don't see us significantly, meaning the long term from here on out is more than likely generally down or at least minorly positive at the most. It ends up making the crypto market more favorable, so to speak. And the crypto market could be an indicator of when people are more suspicious of traditional markets and the US dollar in particular. Right now, the US dollar is actually going down a little bit, although today it was up. And if the dollar dumps significantly, I think we can see a bid in the crypto space, a significant bid. Whether that ties into the April timeframe, I wouldn't doubt it, and here's why. Because right now the US dollar is doing everything it possibly, or the US dollar, the US government is doing everything it possibly can to really tick off the people that support the dollar and trade with the US. China, Eurasia, Europe, we're already threatening to put import restrictions on the cars or import tariffs. And whenever we have tariffs, you get a downtrend generally in the dollar, a downtrend in the stock markets, and it's bad news all the way around. Bad news all the way around. And I'm not getting into the politics of it. I'm just telling you the economics of it. So all of that makes the crypto space more attractive. Now let's talk about real news versus what everybody's saying. Right now the markets are down. We'll just verify that for you. Well, you can see it right here, 74 whatever, $7,400 down. We're quite aware that the crypto space is a sea of red. In fact, let's just verify that, and we'll see. Now, I am going to talk about a couple of projects that I think are positive. Tron is, holding its own, but it's just a sea of red, double digit in a lot of things. But there are some projects that I want to mention that I think are going to have. I don't know very much about XPA, but I'm going to check it out. And the other ones I am very, very familiar with. Skycoin also familiar with. But in any case, let's get back to the fake news versus the real news. Bitcoin drops below 7,500 as Twitter ban takes toll on markets. A nice story. It's not what it is. That's not what it is at all. Twitter, Facebook, Google are certainly hurting cryptocurrencies. They got the word from their government masters, and that's what's happened. We're shut out of a lot of these markets. Fortunately, the crypto space is filled with some of the most dynamic, creative, forward-looking, freedom-loving people there are, and they are creating, and I'm not one of them, I wish I were, I don't have the time, creating social media like one I need to get on. I've actually got a little bit of a footprint there, but not much. DTube. I don't know if it's dtube.com. No, it's not dtube.com. It's maybe it's dtube.ai or dtube. Is that what it is? Let's see here. Okay, it doesn't look like that's it. And BitChute. Yeah, I'm not doing very well here. I'm not gonna bother because I don't have it pulled up. Anyway, there are multiple social media platforms, so we're fighting against all that. But right now, there's no doubt about it that Twitter, Facebook, Google, and maybe even YouTube might ban my channel. I don't know. They're all harming the cryptocurrency space, but the real reason is this right here. That's it. And I also talked about in my last video about Binance. Even though Binance is moving to Malta, if Japan shuts Binance and other exchanges, as it's already doing, off from accessing the markets or allowing the Japanese to access the cryptocurrency markets, that is harming the liquidity in the crypto space to the extent of almost 30% of the traffic. Almost 30% of the traffic. Do you have any idea what that does at the margin? If car sales were to drop 30% tomorrow, the General Motors, Toyota, and all of them would be basically doing whatever they could to give away cars. There would be car dealers knocking on your door. That's how significant that is, and we've only dropped to 7,500. Now, the flip side of all this is when the exchanges in Japan decide to go through the hoops and get access to the Japanese market and firm it up, that will legitimize that space somewhat. I'm not for it at all. As you know, if you've been watching me for any length of time, I am completely against all government regulation, period, end of discussion. It's just, you're letting criminals in charge of the hen house. But if that happens, that will legitimize somewhat the cryptocurrency exchanges and allow institutional money to come in, and of course, it'll lift the market. It's a good bad situation as it is. But I will. I'm going to be covering more of other markets as well because I really have a focus myself on bigger picture investments right now. Number one thing probably any of us could do is just short some of the highest flyers, the Facebooks, the Netflix, potentially Amazon, obviously Tesla. These have been shorts for a while. They will continue to be shorts. Also, any heavily indebted company in the real estate space. There are a number of them, REITs, ones that own mortgage-backed securities. These are great places to short. And also, any company involved in producing silver is going to be a moonshot fairly shortly. The ones that are juniors. So that's what I'm focusing on as far as crypto goes. Here's one that I think is a really good project to take a look at. And one of my viewers and somebody's in one of the chat rooms with me, TE Food, he asked me about it. I've been following it for a while. I mentioned it a long time ago. I happen to think it's a really strong project with use cases already. I have an agricultural background somewhat, and I know that this is an incredibly viable project that has long-term upside, real use cases, and a path to profitability. I am not strongly recommending anyone buy it. I'm just letting you know it is legitimate. Put it that way. Make your own choice. All right, this is coinpicker.us signing out, and we will catch up with you probably tomorrow.